So we're going to call the hearing to order. Good evening, folks. I'm Jay Griffin, the Chair of the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission. I'm joined here tonight with Commissioner Jennifer Potter, Commissioner Leo Suntian, and Dean Nishina from the Consumer Advocate's Office. Our hearing this evening is being recorded and will later be transcribed by a court reporter. A copy of the recording will also be available on the Commission's YouTube channel. Again, as a reminder, anyone who wishes to testify, please indicate that using our Q&A feature here. Send a request to the host saying I wish to testify. We're going to take that list and run through that after we go through we start with applicants and then the Consumer Advocate's Office. Then we'll go to the participants on the phone. We just took the first couple names, so thank you for that. Then we'll do one round at the very end, just in case we catch people that join us late or decide to testify later. So that's going to be our format here. Getting started. State law requires the Commission to hold a public hearing whenever a public utility proposes a rate increase. This evening, we're holding a public hearing for docket number 2020-0089. The purpose of the hearing is for the Commission to take testimony, not to answer questions about the application. Testifiers can always contact both LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company and the Consumer Advocate if you have questions for them. This is the second public hearing in this docket. First public hearing took place on January 7th, 2021, and focused on the temporary rate increase request. This public hearing is focused on the general rate increase request. Contact information for the Consumer Advocate and the applicant are available on the Commission's website. Will be posted here in the Q&A this evening during the hearing if you wish to contact them directly. LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company, also referred to as LAUNIUPOKO or applicant. Their requests are described in detail in their application, which was filed on June 5th, 2020, and in the hearing notice. In summary, the applicant is requesting temporary rate increases to its user rates and standby charges. In the user rates, the non-bulk rates, the applicant requests a 263.2% increase in non-bulk rates from 76 cents to $2.76 per 1,000 gallons. In the bulk rates, applicant requests a 623.3% increase in bulk rates from 38 cents to $2.76 per 1,000 gallons. And the standby charges, the applicant requests to increase standby charges by between 23.3% and up to 3,088.3% for meter size 5/8, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, 3, 4, and 6 inches. The scope of the public hearing this evening is limited to the issues listed at the outset that are identified in LAUNIUPOKO's application and our ground rules for testifying here. We start with the applicant. They'll be given 8 minutes to discuss their application. I believe Mr. Trimble said he's on the phone, so we'll go over to him after I finish the introduction here. Consumer Advocate will be given 8 minutes to explain their role in our process and present any testimony. I think I saw Mr. Nishina here, so he'll go second. And then all other testifiers who have identified themselves will have 5 minutes to present testimony at the hearing. Testifiers may not give all or any portion of their allotted time to another testifier. You may submit comments in writing to the Commission at any time, either through email or by regular mail. Information on that is available on our website. If you testify this evening at the beginning, please identify yourself, state whether you're testifying on behalf of an organization or as an individual, and state whether you support or oppose the applicant's requests. And with that, we'll begin with the testimony from the applicant, LAUNIUPOKO. Yes, somebody has their hand up here, Mr. Strand. I think we need to unmute him. Okay. Are you in? No, not unmuted yet.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, Chair Griffin and Commissioners Potter and Asuncion. My name is Robert Strand. I'm an attorney with the Carl Smith Ball Law Firm, and we are representing the LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company, the applicant in this proceeding. With us this evening are Mr. Glenn Trimble, who's secretary of the applicant and helped prepare the application, and Ms. Arsima Muller, one of the co-counsels for the applicant. We very much appreciate the opportunity to briefly review the company's application for rate relief this evening. The company's application for a temporary rate increase was filed in June of 2020. As outlined in the application, the company is a small water company providing non-potable water with 408 service connections in West Maui. The company received its Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity in 2003, and since that time, the company has not raised its rates, striving to keep its rates for non-potable water among the lowest in the state. Prior to 2018, the company's water system was primarily serviced by two stream diversions with intakes at Kaula and LAUNIUPOKO streams. These streams were gravity-fed sources of water and represented 98% of the water company's water supply to its customers. The other 2% was sourced from groundwater wells. Since 2018, the company's ability to divert stream water has been severely limited by in-stream flow standards adopted by the Commission on Water Resource Management of the state of Hawaii. The company has lost its primary source of water, and it was forced to rely almost exclusively on the limited groundwater sources when rainfall in the streams was inadequate. To be able to utilize these groundwater sources, the company must pump that water, whereas before it was gravity flow with streams with no pumping costs. And in order to pump that water, the company had to re-engineer the system from a gravity-fed top-down delivery to a bottom-up-to-top delivery system. The re-engineered system improvements included the installation of new water mains dedicated to this supply source and had to use a generator since Maui Electric Company does not currently provide electricity to the site. This has resulted in significantly higher fuel and labor costs for the applicant. Since 2019, the company has been operating at a significant loss. The additional cost of providing a substitute water source, has resulted in increased operating and capital costs, which are not being recovered under present rates. The application for temporary rate increase sought temporary rates that would remain in effect until the Commission acts on the company's application for a change in rates filed in December of 2020. The rate increase that is the subject of this public hearing. And those rates would have been subject to or would be subject to adjustment if the Commission approves consumption charges and meter or standby charges that result in revenues that differ from any temporary rates approved by the Commission. On July 19, 2021, approximately 13 months after the filing of the application for a temporary rate increase and losses of in excess of $673,000 incurred by the company, the Commission issued an order approving a temporary rate increase in the company's total revenues to $555,506, however conditioned on the company rescinding its water curtailment policies. However, that order had two major problems that are discussed in the company's motion for reconsideration filed in July of this year. While the Commission increased the company's revenues to a level that would pay for the cost of diesel fuel and electric utilities in its total operating cost expenses shown on Exhibit A, it did not include all of the other operating expenses being incurred by the company that are listed on the company's statement of position filed in February of 2021. When we exclude certain consumer advocate adjustments and rate case expenses, those expenses total $857,945, far above.
Mr. Strand, I have to stop you. You're veering into there's a pending motion for reconsideration, which you're clearly veering right into. This hearing is about the general rate increase request.
Okay, I'll skip over that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't want to hear that part.
This is not the right venue.
Okay, correct. I apologize.
This clearly notices the public hearing for the general rate increase.
Okay. Until the Commission grants the rate increases requested by the company will continue to lose money each month, further jeopardizing the company's ability to provide irrigation water service to its customers in amounts required by its customers on a reliable and year-round basis. Well, we won't talk about the condition about doing away with the curtailment. Let me finish up then. I guess in summary, without the permanent rate increase requested by the company will be unable to complete the improvements necessary to replace the stream water no longer available to the company and to pay for increased expenses experienced as a result. Therefore, the company encourages the Commission to expedite approval of its application for a permanent rate increase in the hope that the company can move forward with those improvements and increase the amount of non-potable water available to its customers as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you this evening, and please let us know if you have any questions about the application.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Strand. Just to clarify, Mr. Trimble had said earlier he was interested in speaking, but I take it this is all the testimony we're taking this evening on behalf of the applicants?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Nishina. I see you there. Good evening. Hopefully we've unmuted you. Oh, I think wait for the request to unmute you, and you can proceed, Mr. Nishina. Thank you, Mr. Strand.
You're welcome, Mr. Chair.
Am I audible now? All right. Aloha and good evening, Chair Griffin, Commissioners Potter and Asuncion. My name is Dean Nishina, and I am the Executive Director for the Division of Consumer Advocacy in the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. I and my office is often referred to as the Consumer Advocate. The Consumer Advocate represents the interests of consumers in public utility matters by advocating for public utility services that are reliable and at reasonable customer costs. I am here this evening to listen to the community's comments regarding LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company, who I will refer to as LIC, their proposed general rate increase of $1.5 million, which translates into a 281% increase for their non-potable water service and approval of revisions to its tariff. The Consumer Advocate will take an independent look at LIC's request for a rate increase and assess whether that request is reasonable. As part of that analysis, we will also look at LIC's proposed tariff changes, including the request for Commission approval to begin charging families living on Kuleana lands for non-potable water service. We will look at these and other matters related to LIC's proposal that raise several complex issues. As part of our analysis, we are currently conducting discovery, where we are seeking data and information to evaluate the company's support for the requested rate increase and other changes. Then later in this proceeding, we will submit the results of our analyses and recommendations to the Commission for their decision on the requested relief. As mentioned earlier, however, I am interested in hearing comments from the public tonight. So I encourage the public to express their concerns and opinions to the Commission regarding LIC's proposal. This will assist both the Consumer Advocate and the Commission in our work. As we move forward, we are interested in hearing from from customers that may be able to provide information related to the proposed rate increase, plan additions and tariff changes that have been set forth in the application. And we're also very interested in the impact that LIC's request may have on you. So please feel free to contact the Consumer Advocate's office at any time to share your thoughts, concerns, and questions regarding this or any other utility matter. As mentioned by Chair Griffin, the contact information for our office is available on their website as well as our own website. But if I can take the opportunity just to share, our mailing address is P.O. Box 541, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96809. And our email address is dca@dcca.hawaii.gov, or feel free to call us at area code 808-586-2800. Thank you very much for this opportunity to offer these comments, and I look forward to hearing from the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nishina. And I think, as we said earlier, we will have contact information both for Dean's office, Consumer Advocate's office, and the applicant's contact information on our website, and we'll post that up in the Q&A box this evening. Our first request to testify came in from Patricia Grant. So can we unmute her, please? Thank you, Ms. Grant.
All right. So this is my first time. Is there any information I need to give on who I am or anything like that?
Just state your name, whether you're testifying on yourself or an organization, whether
Sure.
it's support or oppose the application, in 5 minutes.
Perfect. All right. I'll have my husband here time me. All right. So thank you for the opportunity to talk. My name is Patricia Grant. I'm a new resident here in LAUNIUPOKO, and part of it is when I take a look at. So first and foremost, I oppose the current rate increase that is listed here. I don't disagree that there is an opportunity for there to be some sort of increase. But the challenge that I have with the documentation, the paperwork that I'm getting sent, is that it lacks complete transparency. And what I talk about, what I actually just heard Robert Strand talked about, first it was a temporary rate increase, then I heard him say permanent. So again, the lack of transparency as far as what is the proposal that is being brought forward, what is the long-term strategy to get us out of this mess that we're in, where the constant rate increase. I live up on the hill. I barely get irrigation water. My 30 by 50 front lawn looks like a war zone. So I'm paying for something I don't even really get much of up here. But with that, one of the things that I would really like to see is that, if we keep going about this the same way over and over again, this is truly the definition of insanity. And what I would really like to see is that the water company, working with the members of the board, to get together, we all elect people of the board to come and represent us in the communities, come together, talk about have a non-biased party assess the operations of the water company. It doesn't make sense to me that non-potable water is going to be cheaper than potable water, which is going to cause people to go in the opposite direction when I take a look at that. But I'd like to see a fair assessment of what is the current operations, what are the opportunities for the long-term sustainable strategy. Have recommendations made to all of us via our boards who we voted into office to have them come in and do something. And then additionally, bring those recommendations back to us that we can look together as a community because, yes, things are more expensive. Things are costing more. And there is such thing as climate change out there. But what I'd really like to see is just a lot more transparency and a plan on, is this temporary or permanent? I thought it was temporary, but, Robert said it was permanent. For how long? And what does this get us? And thinking about all these other opportunities out here that we as a community could and should be doing, whether or not it's coming up with drought-tolerant plans for neighborhoods. There's some homes that look like Pebble Beach Golf Course in the neighborhood. Mine looks like a war zone. So with that, coming up with solutions that are fair and equitable and transparent. This piece of paper, I'm a vice president of strategy and operations for a technology company. This is horrible. The way this is written does not convince me that I should be paying 263% more for non-potable water. And so with that, what I would like to see is a plan that is something that is understandable and involve the leaders of our boards to bring something forward, make a recommendation back to us as owners on what's fair. I don't disagree that we probably could be paying more, but 263%, come on. I mean, at the end of the day, that is insane. And if we keep approaching the problem the same way, we're going to be back here again 6 months from now having the same conversation. So we need to come together with the water company and the communities on what is the best way to solve this. Be transparent, make joint recommendations. We're just going to be driving more and more people to turn on their potable, where I don't have that luxury to use the potable on my lawn. And guess what? The irrigation company isn't going to get the revenue they are looking for because people are going to find alternative ways. That's human nature. So that's kind of my ramble, but I do think that there needs to be a better plan than this. This is not what I would call a business plan for a long-term strategy that I would sign up for.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Is that it? You conclude? Okay. Appreciate it.
I conclude.
Thank you.
I try to be short.
I want to apologize. We did receive some requests to testify before the ones posted here in the Q&A. So we have two more two of you that have requested prior to Ms. Grant, so we're going to go take them first. Next up is Jonah Kapu. So can we please unmute him? Mr. Kapu, you were the first one to request tonight, so I apologize for going out of order. It was our mistake here. So can we please unmute him?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Mahalo for this opportunity for me to testify. My name is Jono Keamoko Kapu, and I live in this valley with over 70 family members who are also reliant to the system of water resources from the time of our crown. We're Kuleana families. This company that is before you requesting to jack the rates up an enormous amount, greater, because they are crying that because of all these changes in our system, seaworm, for instance, in-stream flow standard had jeopardized their rights as a public utility. This company is incompetent. LAUNIUPOKO, Mahanalua Nui, Pu'unoa, Makila Ridge got scammed into thinking they will be guaranteed all these resources, thinking because they own all these lands, have the right to do as they please, not really understanding our constitutional rights as Kuleana. And it's this commission's duty to protect our rights. This is a scam, using water, which is a public right, being privatized. Ever since this LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company took control of our lives, changed drastically, neglecting the right that was established in an 1897 Supreme Court rule that the waters of Kauaula shall flow evenly to provide for taro and Pioneer Mills cane land cultivation. Once LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company took over our awai, known as Piilani, ceased to operate, forcing our ohana to live under new rules on how much water the Kuleana are allowed to have. I protest. We, the Kuleana, want our own system to manage, so we determine our fate. Our ohana has suffered enough. There is a saying in Hawaii, "Uakoe ke Kuleana nakanaka," the rights of the native tenant. We have rights, and it is your duty to assure our rights are not being neglected. To assure that Piilani Hawaii provide water for the Kuleana again, creating a dual system is what I request. Whereas our ohana don't have to rely on a dysfunctional water company that treats our family as illegal squatters. The system of resource management needs to be cleaned up. Does this commission know how much this development of these companies have planned in the future? All 201H projects jacking rates up most definitely is going to make someone rich. They're not even fulfilling the in-stream flow standard, which was set at least half of 3.34 million gallons of water a day. They hardly even go up to the intake to manage and clean the intake. Within the past few years, has almost been neglected, making monitoring impossible to gauge continual flows. I know this system very well, which is diverted from the dam and goes through a tunnel to a penstock into an 18-inch pipe to a hydro plant to a siphon pipe to a reservoir on the Makila end of our properties. Is hardly managed correctly. I ask that this commission deny the rate increase and to look more into this company's history before making any final determination. The second issue I have is if LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company has the ultimate easement rights, because that pipe traverses through my land, and there is no remedy as of yet on how the situation should be alleviated. LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company also never owned Kaula Stream. So where are we? So I really turn to this commission to really look into the ultimate dynamics of what really is going on here. As I said before, to ask that this commission deny the rate increase. I mahalo this opportunity for me to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kapu. Next, we have Aipo Kekona. Will you please unmute Mr. Kekona?
Hello, my Kaku. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
So my name is Kaipo Kekona. I am currently a user of this system and a farmer of probably only 2 users that don't live on site of their farm. I have 12.5 acres. I also operate through a nonprofit, the Hawaii Farmers Union United Foundation. We are the Hawaii Farmers Union United, and we consist of 13 chapters statewide. We have spoke with this in our meetings, and we do not support the rate increase, nor do we support in any way the charging to the Kuleana family landowners to use water. We are an educational farm site. We host at least 700 students a year on our site in education of rejuvenation of our land, and as well as the best water steward practices that we can use. You know, we have a system in place for Hawaii, and you know, the system serves a purpose. Like when you want to impact an area largely, you have environmental impact statements, archaeological inventory studies, shoreline impacts. All these things are in place for reasons, and the reputation that this company, not only LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company, but West Maui Land Company, West Maui Construction, Makila Land Company, Elua, Olualu, all of these different aliases, they all come under the same house. When you do your research, you'll find that they're all tied in and share multiple different loads of the overall mission they have. And they constantly have the reputation to look for the loopholes in our system to no longer require them to have these processes. And if an environmental impact statement was done accurately, they just installed a water line that they went through that gave them exemptions from all of these processes. If they do the proper route and the proper process, it would identify that the resources they need to produce what they want are no longer available in the area. We want to talk about management and long-term goals and practices to make the system better. We're not promoting that in any way. The plantation came forward, removed all of the forests in the area that took away a resource to replenish or the sources to replenish our watershed. If we want to talk about a long-term plan, we need to reforest sections. We need to be planting out trees that can produce water to replenish the watershed. None of that is being discussed. They put enough housing and multiple units that just paving over, and there's no effort to restore the watershed that has been depleted and destroyed. You know, the gentleman before me mentioned that there's no lease with the state to have this water source established. So really they cannot, and then even the seaworm can admit that can say that they haven't met the interim midstream flow standard. So all of that excuses that they're laying out on us is not legit. We don't have the surface area that the LIC has to produce or to provide water for. The property that I'm on is just under 1,400 acres, Kamehameha Schools. They make up 1/3 of the interest of their surface area. We don't even receive 1/3 of the water that they have allocated through through their license from the PUC. So if we were to move forward with just the 1/3 interest that their surface area covers, and somehow Kamehameha Schools got up there and asserted their pertinent water rights, we would be able to show that even then there's not that amount of water to be available. We would be depleting everyone else's resources for water as well. No one would be able to have adequate water sources for the area. So there's obviously a huge problem besides the rate increase. The lady mentioned earlier, Grant, it's ridiculous to try and increase that high of a of a rate increase, let alone the bulk users. I'm considered one of the bulk users. I cannot. You guys can put that restriction on us or that rate increase on us. We're gonna shut down. We're gonna have to take on huge loss. We're already invested over $1 million into our farm site. We cannot work with that. So I want to humbly ask that you guys really look into the situation and really look over all the numbers and consider what's real and what's just some Shibai smokescreen fake, and do something that can help everybody out here figure out one process, whatever you guys are going to come up with, but we cannot accept the rate increase. It's not going to work out for us. Thank you guys very much for your time and all your efforts. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Kekona. That's next up on our list, and we posted the list here in the Q&A. Ms. Graham went already. So next is Terrell James Kaniali'i Williams. Can we unmute Mr. Williams?
Hello, can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Terrell James Kaniali'i Williams. I'm testifying as a Kuleana landowner myself in opposition to LIC's application for the rate increases, especially because their attempt to charge Kuleana families and landowners for water that they and we have rights to as Kuleana landowners. I'm going to be quite frank about it. Regardless of what LIC's profit looks like right now and their revenue source or whatever, they should have been more familiarized. They should have taken the time to actually learn the water laws of the state. And if they did that work, they would know that they don't have the right to the water. They don't have the right to charge Kuleana families whatsoever who actually have a pertinent water rights. So I personally think it's ridiculous to even entertain the idea that LIC can charge Kuleana families for water that is of their ahupua'a, that their ancestors have been using such for generations before this company has come here. They don't have the right to the water. Regardless of, the best advice I can give them as someone who went through a master's in business administration is if you're losing money, you better get out now. You don't have the right to them. They don't have the right to the water. They don't have the right to charge Kuleana families. I don't know what they're seeking in whatever opportunities they think that are there, but they're not there. There's no opportunity for them to do that because the law does not allow them to charge Kuleana families for water. And if they do, I think that's going to open up a huge lawsuit against LIC and possibly the state. And if the state allows this application to go through, to me that shows that this commission is incompetent with the water laws as well. So I hope that this commission isn't incompetent to the water laws, that this commission will support the Kuleana families and make sure that the Kuleanas are not charged. And when I say a Kuleana landowner, I'm not talking about these companies like West Maui Land Construction who fraudulently claim Kuleana lands and all of a sudden they think that they own. They're not landowners. They're not Kuleana landowners. I'm talking about the descendants of the original title holders of the Royal Patent Allodial titles. Those are the Kuleana landowners. And so just to wrap up, I do not support their rate increase. I do not support their application. And I do not support them charging Kuleana landowners and families for water.
Does that conclude your testimony this evening?
Yes, it does.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Appreciate it. Next up is Kamuela Guth. Can we unmute Mr. Guth?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Aloha. Thank you, commissioners. I am an LIC customer. I support the rate increase, and I am representing myself and my family. Born and raised in Lahaina, I own a piece of property up in LAUNIUPOKO. You know, the sea worm has changed the rules on how LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company gets water. They used to get it from a gravity-fed system, like the lawyer said. Now they have found an alternative source where they're pumping it from an old well down in Waianae. And I support this change because I do have fruit trees, I have flowers, I have different things that I'm growing here on my property, and we only get water a couple days a week from the non-potable system. It's not their fault. 20 years ago when this subdivision was developed, they had every intention of using the stream and the gravity-fed system to irrigate or provide irrigation water for all of the properties here. And Seaworm has recently changed those things, so they had to change their strategy on how they get water, right? So they found a well, so they're pumping it, and that costs money. And they have to pass that charge on to the customers, and I am willing to pay that to have consistent water source all week long. I work full-time. My wife works full-time. I have 2 kids. I'm not rich. I live here full-time, unlike most residents here. We have avocado, mango, citrus, native plants, and they need water, right? So what's the alternative if we don't support this? The LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Water Company shuts down, and then we have to use potable water to irrigate our plants. And I don't think that that's a good idea because they're pumping it out of the ground and they're filtering it and they have to add chemicals to it because we have to drink it. And then we're passing that on to our plants. Right? The county requires 51% of your property, if it's ag zone, to be farmed. So how does the state expect us to comply with the county rules of farming 51% of our property? I only have 2.5 acres. There are other properties up here that are a lot larger. How are they supposed to farm those properties? How am I supposed to keep my plants alive in order to meet those requirements? So I support the rate increase because I want water, or at least I want the option of having water all week long. I disagree with the other testimonies which said that they should have done their research. It wasn't their fault that they had to change their strategy. When they developed this subdivision, they had water. And then in 2018, Seaworm changed the rules. So they had to adapt, and now they have to pass that cost on to the customers. It's not their fault. It's just, it is what it is. And if we don't support this rate increase, they can't continue to keep supporting 79 cents a gallon. What are our options? They'll shut down, and then we'll have to use potable water. I'm in favor of this rate increase. Born and raised here. I have a bunch of native plants. I have a bunch of fruit trees that all need water. And that will conclude my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Guth. Let's move to, next on our list is Greg Miller. Can we unmute Mr. Miller, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, like you said, my name is Greg Miller, and first of all, I'd like to thank you for taking my testimony this afternoon. And I am a Maui resident and living in LAUNIUPOKO, and also a LIC customer and user. I am in favor of a water rate price increase. In most normal situations, I would oppose such an increase, but this is not a normal situation. We are without a doubt in a water crisis. Most recently, several things have happened. We are presently experiencing a severe drought. Is it cyclic, Mother Nature, or climate change? Who really knows? But it's real. The sudden and drastic water diversion program by Seaworm effectively reducing the water flowing down the mountains into the LAUNIUPOKO reservoirs. Gravity brought the streams waters to the LAUNIUPOKO reservoirs, not pumps. Presently, the lack of non-potable water in LAUNIUPOKO is having a devastating effect on homeowners' properties, those who farm, and those who raise livestock. LIC, or LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company, has developed the means by which to transport water to LAUNIUPOKO's reservoirs. They'll use pipes and pumps. It's an amazing opportunity for LAUNIUPOKO residents to finally receive some water relief, but it's costly. So now, at this very moment, we have a simple choice. If you want water now or for our future, vote to support a rate increase. If you're satisfied with the current bleak water situation and the future outlook, then don't support the rate increase. And I would like to say that I'm opposed to the people testifying that they have a right to free water. I vehemently disagree with that. And if there's any time left over after my testimony, you can give it to somebody else. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Just to be clear, one, we're not allowing people to transfer time, and I asked whether you're support or oppose the applicant's request. So I take from your testimony you're supporting.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Yes, just to clarify. And just note for everyone, again, please state your position on the applicant's request, and we're not transferring time. So thanks again. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your testimony. Next up is Donna Brown. We unmute Ms. Brown.
Hi, my name's Donna Brown, and I am a resident of Makila, and I can't really say I totally oppose this. I just oppose that the rates would be increased that much, and I also think that if we had a reliable water supply, I would hate to see the rates go up that much and have the water we have now. We moved here about 13 years ago from Napili. My husband used to work for Pioneer Mill for many years, and this was one of the lands that he was the irrigation supervisor, and this was one of the lands that he worked at. And so it was kind of a dream to have our own farm. So when we moved here, we came down, we had a small place at Napili, so we wanted to have a farm. And we spent the first few years here planting and planting. We planted a bunch of coffee trees and bananas and coconuts and papayas and lime trees. And we planted all this stuff, and almost all of it's dead from the last couple of years because the water's been off most of the time. We go for like a week without water, or it's not really reliable because we have other jobs. So on our day off, when we want to try to water, there's no water. So I think that I understand if they have to do some kind of a rate increase, but I think it's a little bit excessive what they're asking. And one of their excuses of needing that much is because they spend so much money on their gas for the generator and everything. And I don't understand why they wouldn't just use a solar operated system so they don't have to buy all that gas. I think if they were going to upgrade things and make it work better, that would be great. So I'm just saying I understand that there could be a need for an increase, but I think it's a little bit excessive. And also I think that we should get some guarantee that our farm doesn't die after we spend all that work to grow all the things that we've done. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Have a good evening. Next up is Brad Shevland. We unmute Mr. Shevland. I saw his camera was on before. You don't have to turn your camera on, but let's unmute him, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, my camera went off and it won't go back on. I don't know why, but I live in LAUNIUPOKO. I use the water. I'm up at the top at 900 feet. I have 600 trees that I water, and a large, I have lawn that I like to keep green. And I haven't had any problem with water. I water at night, and I personally haven't had any problems. I do see, because I live close to the reservoir, that we are in a drought and there is a lot less water coming down. I hike the river all the time, and I see, I'd like to say, them take care of the intakes all the time. Those intakes are washed daily. So I don't know who said that, but they control the water. They take care of the system. I'm just going to second everything that Commonwealth Guth said. I think that was brilliant, and I have no problems with the increase. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Shevland. Let's move. Next on our list is Joshua Dean. Can we please unmute Mr. Dean?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Josh Dean, born and raised in Lahaina. A lot of friends that live up in LAUNIUPOKO. I own a property there, and I'm a LIC customer. I'm in support of the rate increase. It makes sense to me. I would like cheap water as cheap as possible, but I understand that if a privately held company is losing money providing water, that it's just a matter of time before they stop providing water. And so I get it. They changed the system from gravity flow to now having to pump it out of the water table, so that costs more. So I would like the opportunity to be able to buy non-potable water from LIC, and I hope that they remain in business for years to come, so that I have the ability to grow plants and crops, or to feed livestock, or whatever I choose to do. And the way I see it, it seems like, you're going to have a lot of people there's a lot of people supporting and a lot of people who are against this application. But if there's just one person or just a few people who are willing to transact with LIC, why don't we just get out of the way and let them transact? If you got willing buyers who are willing to pay for water at this rate, let them go. And if it is too expensive for people, then LIC is going to go out of business anyway, because no one's going to use the water. So I am in support of the application, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Next up is Noelani Ahia.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Noelani Ahia. Thank you, commissioners, for being here this evening to take our testimony. I oppose this rate increase. LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company created a situation where they minimized how much water was being needed. Now I want the residents to bail them out. Water has always been an issue in West Maui. Paying more isn't going to make more water. Seaworm didn't change the rules. They just started complying with the constitution that's already been set in place. They need to stop developing, and they need to respect that there simply isn't enough water to serve their development desires. This company has repeatedly traumatized the community with its unpermitted water line that desecrated burials, and just a few weeks ago bulldozed through a historic auwai. They have shown themselves to be irresponsible and reckless neighbors, and trusting them to manage water resources is also irresponsible. This is not a small water company. It's a massive development conglomeration, and several of the people who are testifying in favor have financial ties to these companies. The inflow stream standards also are not currently being met by LIC, and Seaworm's parameters are more than fair, as Kuleana landowners depend on that water, which they have a constitutional right to. This is not an opinion. This is a statute in the Hawaii State Constitution. LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company never owned Kaua'ula Stream. It doesn't belong to them. They have no lease to use it from the state. I urge you to deny this rate increase. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Aloha. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Ahia. We're down to the last two folks who have at least asked to testify in the Q&A. I just want to renew the request if you want to step forward and testify, please state so in the Q&A to our host. We'll put you on the list here. We still have some folks on the phone. We'll do another round there, so please be patient, but you've been doing great here on our WebEx platform. And so next is Huilani Kapu, and based on what you guys stated, this will be from Mr. Jonah Kapu's phone. But Ms. Kapu, please step forward and let's unmute the phone, please.
Hi, my name is Huilani Kapu. I'm a resident of Kauaula Valley, and I just wanted to bring up points. Our water, our PSI used to be 85, then it went down to 75, and today the PSI of our water is 35. As my husband has stated, there's 70 users of Kuleana land in our area, and also LIC, well, I should say Peter Martin Trust loaned LIC $4.75 million. He did it on his own, and now he's asking for his money back. Public utilities did not approve that, so I don't know why it's hanging over everybody else. He's a big conglomerate. They have a lot of properties all over the place in West Maui and Haiku, all over the place. So I am not in favor of this rate increase for LAUNIUPOKO people or anyone. I used to be the president of Kuleana Kuikahi. We fought for LAUNIUPOKO to be ag. We told them they didn't have water. We stressed that point in the LUC for years with them. People have sold their properties over and over and over. They have put extravagant houses, luxury houses, swimming pools. So it is not anybody else's, how should I put it, fact that they should be held accountable for all of this mess up. It's the companies. The company has been warned so many times. I don't even know how to put it. They strong arm people in Olowalu. I mean, they tell people that, don't go against us. Of course, people aren't going to come out to say what's true. But I just want to say, as a Kuleana owner, their pipes traverse through our property. They have never come to us to write up agreements. We have never approached them for money because of their pipes on our properties. It saddens me to hear that our constitutional rights are being pushed aside and neglected. Rules are not being followed the way it's supposed to be. People are threatened or saying that they won't get services or things will be done differently. It's not right. We are going through hard times, and it's not easy for everyone to have to pay a rate increase of this much, this high. I just don't see it. You folks didn't approve, like I said, you folks didn't approve him giving all this money. So that's his loss. That's nobody else's. Nobody should be jeopardized in doing all of this. And we know that they don't go up there and take care of the intakes and the forebays because they have to pass our house. And someone is always home. And we have an agreement. When they do go up, they notify us. So I do have all of that. So I've also called Mr. Trumbull many times because of our water. I have to go to Daminami because of our water. Juliana owners have to wait if our water lines break. If anything on their line breaks, because we don't have water. We go without water through our houses. And does anybody care? No. Do we grumble and cry? No. But you know what? We know how to survive. And it is our right to have free water. It's a constitutional Juliana right for that. And I appreciate you folks looking into this deeper. And I mahalo for you, mahalo all of you for being here and listening to all of this. And Keakua will always guide us. Keakua will always make sure the light opens up and people see the true colors. Mahalo Keakua. Mahalo to all of you. Good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Kapu. Sorry for the background here. My dog is barking at all the neighborhood kids running around, so you're going to hear that in the background. Bear with us. Next up is Mr. Dylan Payne. Can we please unmute Mr. Payne?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Dylan Payne. I am a resident of Lahaina. My family has lived in the LAUNIUPOKO area since about 2001. I own property in the area, and I support the rate increase. Nobody likes to pay higher prices, and I'd prefer not to, but if this means having available non-potable water, then I'm all for the increased water rates. To my knowledge, the applicant has not increased their rates really since their inception back in the early 2000s, and I can't think of anything that really costs the same today as it did back then when I was in high school. Everything tends to increase in price over the years. When you layer on top of that the fact that this water system, the delivery system, has been dramatically altered by no fault of the water company, it makes sense that this rate increase should follow. I attended a lot of the seaworm meetings when the interim in-stream flow standards were discussed for Launiupoko and Kaula streams, and I testified in those meetings that I didn't think the in-stream flow standards were realistic based on the amount of water that we see in the streams, and I believe that LIC testified that implementing those stream flow standards would be a significant detriment to their company and their users. And here we are a few years later, and that's exactly what has played out. Again, nobody likes to have to pay more for stuff, but at the same time, I kind of applaud the company for, finding a solution when they were faced with a unexpected kind of deviation from what had been a very reliable source of inexpensive water. There's been a lot of reference to the fact that the state constitution enshrines free water for certain individuals, and I think that's true. At the same time, I'm not a constitutional scholar by any means, but I don't think that means that the delivery of that water should be free as well. If a private company goes and brings that water to your doorstep, I think that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for the water, but for the delivery of that water. And again, I support the rate increase if it means that we'll have non-potable water available for years to come. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Payne. I believe we just had a request from Sherry Miller to testify. And after that, we're going to go to we had 2 requests on the phone. We'll go to those. And then I know a number of users join us after. So after we get those who have made the request, we're going to cycle through those of you, call-in users 10, 11, 12, 13. So just so people know what's coming. But please next go to Sherry Miller.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. First, I'd like to say thank you for taking my testimony this evening. My name is Sherry Miller, and I'm also a Maui resident, and I currently live in LAUNIUPOKO. I'm also an LIC customer, and I just want to make a note for the record that my husband or myself have any financial interest in LIC, and I'm quite offended by the remark that the previous testifier stated. I believe that what LIC is doing is a private company bringing us water. No company is going to be in business to lose money. And I support this rate increase. I believe that getting dependable water to our properties is better than having no water at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. We just had a request from, it's just identified as Jade. Can we unmute that testifier? Please proceed.
Hello, can you folks hear me?
Yes. Can you just state your full name for the record here?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Jade Chihara. I'm a resident of Lahaina, born and raised. I'd like to testify on behalf of myself, my family, and my work at on Ku'ia. We receive water from Kau'ula Stream, and we're a dependent user on LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation. I do not support the rate increase for the reasons and undue stress this is causing kuleana owners and other dependent users. We grow a lot of ulu, coconuts, and food for our kupuna, our schools, our families, and the rate increase this is causing a lot of stress and headache. And I'd also like to include that this company is not abiding by the industry flow standards, as Kau'ula Stream has not flown Mauku to Makai for almost a year. Mahalo.
Thank you for testifying this evening. We're going to turn to the phone callers next. I don't think we've had anyone else. But people on the WebEx would like to testify. Please just submit your request. We're going to go to the next 2 phone callers first. So first up is Ryan from West Maui Construction. Your phone user number 3, I believe. So can we unmute Ryan and please go ahead.
Hi, this is Ryan Grether. I work with West Maui Construction. We're a contractor that's been hired by the LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company to put together a lot of capital improvement projects. So I'm pretty familiar with the system. I've done a lot of work looking at plans, helped out with LIC's efforts in order to improve the system, adding pump systems, adding pipelines. I've got a background in engineering. So I want to just address a couple of things. It seems like a lot of concern was related to reliable service. And if LIC has funding to pay for these projects to be completed, it will absolutely be able to provide reliable water service to its customers, even without any stream flow water. So we've got pumps on order that can handle all the demand of the neighborhood. So I also wanted to address the in-stream flow standard, that there was a lot of discussion of that. So when the Commission on Water Resource Management issued that ruling, they were looking at a report from the U.S. Geological Survey that they did a study of stream flows. And the number that USGS came up with was for a flow that they calculated would be present in the stream 90% of the time. So the in-stream flow standard that Seaworm instituted 10% of the year is not even going to be in the stream. The other thing about the in-stream flow is that's the minimum in the stream. Only the excess can then be diverted. So it makes sense that some people have issues with intermittent water service, that if the stream is prioritized above water users, then LIC is really in a bind in terms of being able to have enough water to meet the needs of its customers. But the good news is they've got a lot of pumps on order, projects in place, that they just need the funding. So another thing that came up in a lot of testimony that I'd like to comment on is people in the LAUNIUPOKO neighborhood using potable water for irrigation. And that is a bit of a concern, because if the worry is that the rate increase is too high and that demand shifts to the potable system will need additional capital improvements to handle that additional demand. And then that rate increase will be even greater than what LIC is proposing here. So I think it's incredibly important for fire protection for the neighborhood, for reliable potable and non-potable, that the rates be increased. If anything, I would recommend the rates get increased higher than what LIC is proposing, but it looks like LIC, they've done their calculations. So I also wanted to address a comment about solar as a power source for the new pump systems. I love that idea, but unfortunately it would take a huge amount of square footage of solar panels in order to provide enough power for the size of the pumps to move the water that we need. That power cost is a big input into why the rate increase is what it is. So unfortunately, solar is not an option. We've got diesel generators in place and applications in with Maui Electric in order to provide permanent utility service, but that's in the works. And again, it all ties back to needing funding. So that's the majority of what I'd like to say in my official capacity representing West Maui Construction. But in a personal capacity, I noticed a lot of commentary about people on Kuleana properties and not wanting the rate increase. And to me, it looks like, from the outside looking in, a simple solution might be just to have them disconnected from the LIC system. Then they wouldn't have to pay any rates. They could submit their own applications to Seaworm for diversion permits and, continue just living uninterrupted. Thank you for listening, and I'll hand this off to the next person.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to our next request. Came from Kaneloa, and apologize if I get your name wrong here. I took the notes quickly. Amonal. It was number 6. And after that, we're going to go, our staff host is going to cycle through callers number 10 through 13. So we may hear a gap in silence as they ask you whether you want to testify or not. So just so people know that's coming. So please proceed.
Now, hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kaneloa Kamani. I am a Kuleana from Waihe Valley, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to participate in this PUC meeting. So I will come from the side of the Kalakamale and the side of the Kuleana. I was part of the contested case of the Maui stream. So I'm very, I have a lot of knowledge of the contested case. The one thing that came out of the contested case, and for going for permits, I advocated that Kuleana had superior rights, and that the state was obligated to deal with us because we had an interest, an uninterrupted interest to the use of water. I refer to their HRSs, HRS 7-1, HRS 9-1, and there's several others that can be looked at. I think HRS 172-C, I believe. Talk about water rights. And the thing is, what it states is that, and what came out of the water case, stated that, and I talked to it, Juliana has superior rights. And Shevland, in their meeting here on Maui, made that claim up at the golf course, community golf course, in the Monroe House, that yes, Mr. Kamano, you do have superior rights. So if the voters that want to charge us and say that we should charge for delivery, the interest of that water, who is LIC paying to? They're paying to the state, and my report to the state was, then where is your authority to have jurisdiction over the water when our interest is superior, as the city in Shevland meeting? I said, that means if there is a superior, there are inferiors, and that inferior is the state. Even the federal government cannot prove that water rights were given. In their 1898 Million Resolution, there is an inventory of what was turned over to the United States. And there is only included 1.8 million acres of land. In that resolution, there's nothing about water. Water was never given. And to suppose that they have jurisdictional rights is a fallacy. Because there's, and I've asked the state to prove to me where their Kalapala shows that they have been given their rights. They never did because they could not show it. And neither can the United States. So for one thing, if you're going to bounce that we should be paying, or saying that we should be paying for water to be delivered, then should we not be, and should we be paid for the water that is being taken out of our stream? Because by law, we have superior rights. And the reason for that superior right is because we have came down in 1839 to our Bill of Rights, solidified in 1840 in our constitutional kind of right, our first constitution of our kingdom. 1859 law talks about water rights. To now look at as HRS 7-1. 1893 through petition solidified. We did not want to become part of the annexation. With that being said, it kept our water rights intact. 1898, as I said, the Million Resolution shows no transference of such authority or power or interest to water to the United States. In 1900, congressional debate on citizenship stated that they cannot naturalize us due to the fact that we as a people rejected the offer to contract with the United States, and so naturalization of us did not happen. 1969, State Emissions Act, subsection 19, shows that
Can you please summarize? Your 5 minutes is up.
Yeah, I'll be in about a minute. Thank you. 1859, Emission Act, subsection 19 shows that we are still that same people. So does your 1993 apology bill, that's 29, and also the
I'm sorry, Mr. Kamada. We have a 5 minute limit for everyone. The commission does accept written testimony. We can make sure you get the accurate information for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. With that, our staff we have. So first off, those of you that are in the WebEx, again, if you wish to testify, please state so in the Q&A. And we will turn it over now to the call-in users who were not here when we started. So we will be checking with you and seeing whether you want to testify or not. So we're going to have a little bit of a gap here. Please, people, be patient, but we're moving our way through the agenda here. Hi, good evening. Would you like to testify?
No, I don't need to testify. Just listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You talking to me?
Sir, would you like to testify?
Sure, I'll say a few words. I'll keep it down to less than 1 minute.
Okay, can you please state your name for the record?
My name is Paul Ratterman.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to. Yeah, okay. No, I've been an owner resident up here in LAUNIUPOKO for going on 18 years, and I just want to say that I think LIC has done a marvelous job given the hurdles that were placed in front of them when the stream water was taken away 3 years ago, and I support the rate increase to get them back on track 100%. I think it should be equitable for all. It should be definitely a good deal for everybody. And going forward, we wish them the best, and hopefully, without doubt, they can continue to provide water for, well, it's a fire hazard up here without the water for sure. And then, of course, the county mandates that we farm, and we can't farm without water, so we need LIC to keep on supplying the water. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. Looks like we have number 11, 10, 11, and 15 are unmuted. Would any of you like to testify? Hearing nothing. Oh, sorry. We're going to come back to those of you in the WebEx on the video screen. We're doing the round of phone calls now. Any of you wishing to testify? Okay, we'll take that as a no. Thank you for your participation. I think I see two have raised their hands. Tamara Pelton and Jave Lawrence. So, Ms. Lawrence, you had turned your screen on first, waved your hand. So can we unmute her first? And any of the remaining people on our WebEx, can you please send your request in the Q&A? We'll make sure we add you to the list. But please go ahead, Ms. Lawrence.
So sorry, I couldn't figure out how to use this WebEx. I'm like freaking out. Anyway,
no problem.
To testify today, I come from a family that comes from that area, been very involved in getting our streams restored in West Maui, part of a group called Nakuleana Okahalavai, where we have worked tirelessly to restore Kawaula and Kohoma. I'm adamantly opposed to the water rate increase because LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company is not actually restoring the streams, and Martin is building out the land at the same time, saying that there isn't enough water. Also, LIC has diverted the Pi'ilani LY, so the Kuleana users that depended on that source cannot use it. I also want to say that, if there's no water, no expansion. LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company also says it cannot provide water for irrigation to existing ratepayers because its wells are salting up. So why is the LIC even considering expanding its service area to Waine'e homes and other West Maui land development? We have said over the last 20 years that it's irresponsible to be pursuing any type of development in this area. It's historically known for drought, for fires. It's not a safe, reliable place to live. And yet you see all these luxury gentleman estates popping up everywhere in that area. And then it's like, okay, and then you have these landowners that buy these gentleman estates now crying wolf because they don't have enough water to meet the demand of their farm plan. Well, you know what? You shouldn't even be there in the first place. Like, how can you be a successful farming company when now you're paying expensive rates for water? It just doesn't make sense to me, and I just wanted to testify and say I oppose it. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Next up, we have Ms. Tamara Pelton. Hi. Let's make sure.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yep, you're unmuted. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you. I just wanted to testify that I also oppose the water rate increase. I think that there needs to be more scrutiny of LAUNIUPOKO Irrigation Company's finances. Although they plead that they don't have enough money, its services are part of the larger enterprise of West Maui Land Luxury Subdivision Development. The Peter Martin Trust has loaned LIC at least $4.75 million without PUC approval, with $1.4 million outstanding. Interest loan expenses alone amounted to $141,343.17 just for the period between January to May 2021. The PUC never approved these high interest loans as required by law. In its most recent letter, LIC states commercial banks are unwilling to provide credit lines to the utility. With all of these questions about the questionable loans and interactions between related entities, the Commission should deny LIC's request for unaudited financial statements. More, not less, scrutiny is needed. The water lines lack easements or agreements. LIC and or its affiliate or parent companies own a water pipeline that travels down to the hydropower plant, an access road, and an irrigation system on a kuleana parcel in Kauaula Valley upon a 1 of Land Court Award number 6507 to Apa'a. LIC incorrectly says there remains a title dispute concerning the land. A jury of the Circuit Court of the Second Circuit determined the Kapu Ohana is owner and heir and confirmed on appeal in heirs and assigns of Apa'a 146 Hawaii 600 463 P3D 1257. No permission or easement has been granted or sought for the encroaching water system and associated access and structures, whether belonging to LIC, West Maui Land Company, or Makila Land Company. There's no charge to kuleana tenants. LIC previously took the position that kuleana tenants would be subject to rate paying, but is silent on the matter in their new rate application. LIC should affirm they are already obligated under pre-existing agreements to provide the water at no charge. Greenhouse gases unaccounted for. Pumping water from wells to Mauka Gentleman Estates requires a lot of energy and diesel at a time when the Commission should be encouraging reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. LIC represents that it is spending $840,000 for diesel fuel and electricity each year. No water, no expansion. LIC also says it cannot provide water for irrigation to existing ratepayers because its wells are salting up. And so I think it's important to question why they're expanding service area to Waime'e Homes and other West Maui land developments. Stream flow is still low. LIC alleges the Water Commission's Kauaula stream restoration requirements as LIC's justification for increased water rates due to LIC's need to now rely on well pumping. The minimum flow standards for Kauaula stream are not being met, so Water Commission requirements do not justify LIC's increased rates. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Pelton. Thank you for your testimony. Have a good evening. Let's see, that was the last testifier that has made a request. We're going to provide one more opportunity. Please make a request in the Q&A. Please turn your camera on and wave your hand. Please give about 10-15 seconds here. Okay, not seeing or hearing anything. We're going to move to our interment here. I want to thank you, all of you, for your participation tonight and your patience. We continue to make the best of our world here, and again, we thank you for your willingness to work in this format and go along with the rules of our hearing here. So I appreciate that. Thank you for your participation. And following the conclusion of our hearing, Commission, the Consumer Advocate will continue with our review of the applicant's requests. The process will conclude with the Commission's issuance of a written decision. This concludes the public hearing for docket number 2020-0089. Thanks again for your attending and participation this evening. That concludes our hearing. All of you have a good evening. Thank you again.